今天呢，我们也是邀请到了著名的经济学家 Mark Skousen。Skousen 先生曾经担任美国 CIA 的经济学分析师，也曾为 IBM 提供咨询服务。他曾经担任福布斯杂志的专栏作家，同时《华尔街日报》也常常刊登他的文章。在 CNBC 的节目当中，也可以常看到他的身影。Skousen 先生曾经在2012年表示金价会出现卖出的信号，而之后呢，黄金便遭遇了大跌。下面呢，我们就将会关于金价、油价、美联储加息的热点问题采访 Skousen 先生。
Okay, so would you like to say hi to our audience?
I certainly would. I would love to say hello to the Chinese. I've been a big fan of the Chinese entrepreneur and the greater Chinese family, and I've been a believer in Confucius. And my favorite Chinese philosopher, Lin Yutang, who wrote the book The Importance of Living. You ever heard of Lin Yutang?
I believe I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's a 20th century Chinese philosopher. His home is in Taiwan because he was anti-communist, but so Mao didn't like him, but he was a very good philosopher. Yeah. Lin Yutang.
Dr. Skousen, thank you so much for joining us. From an economist's point of view, can you give our audience some suggestions of investing?
Well, the key is, I'll give you a quote from the Maxims of Wall Street, which is the new book that I've written, which I think Chinese are famous for sayings, like Confucius sayings and so forth. And there's an interesting saying that says, the more you save, the better you are as an investor. And the reason is you have more money to invest, and so you're more focused on how to make money. And so I think if you save a lot, and the best advice I can give to learn how to be a better investor is to just start investing, because then you will focus on what works and what doesn't work. Yeah.
Do you think investors should focus more on sectors or industries rather than specific companies?
Well, I think it's both. I think you have to know a little bit about individual companies, and then you need to know about industry sectors, like the oil market. The regular stock market's been rising, but the oil market has plunged. And so that's an important factor, because in my newsletter, Forecasts and Strategies, we had several oil stocks where we sold out and took our profits. If we had stayed in it, we would have lost 50% in those stocks, and that's way too much to lose. So I think it's important to look at the sectors as well as individual stocks. A lot of the companies are good companies. It's just that they went down too far.
I'm very glad you brought up oil. So do you think the oil price has hit a bottom?
I think so. It's really hard to predict the bottom in a market. Some have predicted as low as $30 a barrel. I don't think it'll go that low. I think it's close to a bottom, because you still have low interest rates. You still have the Federal Reserve expanding the money supply and so forth. You still have demand for energy all around the world. The economy is recovering. So I think we've probably seen the bottom in oil, but nobody knows for sure.
How do you think the low oil price will affect the U.S. economy in the long run?
Oh yeah, in a very positive way. On net balance, even though the energy companies themselves are laying off workers and cutting back, for the rest of the economy, the majority of the economy, the lower prices are a really good thing.
I remember you have successfully predicted the decline of gold price. You said there was a buy signal in gold last year. Now that the gold price has slightly increased, what's your opinion about the gold price? Do you think now is the right time to invest in gold now?
I'm still skeptical about the gold price, because I think it may have bottomed out here on a short-term basis, but it's really hard to predict. Now, we've made money in my trading services on gold stocks, and they are relatively cheap, there's no question about that. And I am recommending that people buy gold. I keep on me at all times a gold coin. I know the Chinese love gold, and so this is a Mexican 50 peso gold coin. This is 1.2 ounces of gold. And I keep it with me at all times as a bargain, as a reminder of what sound money is like. And I also have silver, the silver dollar, American Eagle silver dollar. And so I think these are wonderful investments over the long term, even though they don't pay any interest. So, but on a short-term basis, I'm still not willing to give a buy signal on gold yet. I'm still skeptical.
Almost the whole world is cutting rates, while the Federal Bank is expected to increase the interest rate in middle of this year. So what's your opinion towards the quantitative easing, and how will the different monetary policy affect the equity market?
Well, I think quantitative easing was unnecessary. I think if they just increase the money supply at a steady rate, which is what Milton Friedman advocated, the monetarist rule, that's all that was necessary. I don't think we needed to prop up the mortgage market more than it was. So I'm not a big fan of the Federal Reserve's easy money and low zero interest rate policies. On the other hand, I don't think they're going to raise rates in June. They might, but we need to see more inflation on the consumer price index, because that's what bond traders look at. And the CPI, with energy prices declining, the CPI actually declined last month by 0.6%. So higher rates require more inflation, more price inflation, and I haven't seen it so far. So for that reason, I think the Fed will be reluctant to raise rates. And like you said, they're cutting rates in Europe, they're cutting rates in Japan. So I think it's going to be a good year for the stock market as long as they don't raise rates. That's the key.
Okay, last question. How do you expect China's economy is going to perform in 2015?
Well, I think that the Chinese economy is starting to decline in the growth rate. That's pretty evident, the trend line. And no country can sustain 8 to 9 to 10% growth rates. So I'm seeing a lower growth rate in China. And it'll be interesting to see how, at some point, I think China has to go through a crisis, because they've pumped a lot of money into the system, building cities and apartments and so forth that I understand are empty. But if that's the case, that's what Austrians call malinvestment. And so I think it's a dangerous sign. I've always thought that this new business class of wealthy Chinese are going to really rule the country. All right?
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Okay.